Okay, this evening I'm going to talk about why I collect knives. Okay, so it's not the kind of subject that can be covered in about 5-6 minutes, really. But I would try to get it covered as swift a time as possible for you. Because I don't want to bore you guys to death. So I'm going to explain why I collect knives and kind of how I got into collecting, and kind of go through my selection process. What draws me to a knife. What appeals to me about it, and why it eventually ends up in my collection. So I will talk about that kind of stuff, and I'll touch upon other things as well, and there will be things that you'll agree on, things you won't agree on. Your selection process will differ from mine. Maybe you'll be exactly the same. Who knows? I don't know. But let's crack on. All right. Overall, I collect knives because I just love collecting knives. I don't know why. I just do. It's something I can't really explain. I can't really put my finger on it. But it's not any one thing. I just like various things, about knives. Not just because they're sharp and they're pointy. You can cut stuff, and you can do that with, you can take any metal, sharpen it, fashion it into a point, and have it cut things. But it's a whole different thing. When you're talking about the time and the effort, and sometimes the love that goes into making some of these knives, it's a whole different kettle of fish. But people have many different reasons for collecting knives, or collecting anything for that matter. I don't just collect the knives. I collect I collect die-cast model cars as well. But I haven't bought any cars for a while, and they're all sitting in the room next door. Kind of just stored. They're all in storage, So, but anyway, back to my knives. My knife selection process. It kind of starts with if I'm looking at a knife, or I'm searching for a knife, it will fall into two categories first. Is it going to be a workhorse kind of knife, or is it going to be something that's going to look really nice? It's got exotic materials. It's it could be handmade, custom. Is it going to be that kind of deal? So a knife for particular purpose. Some people will say, I've got a bit of a kick for big blades, so they spend a little while looking for big blades and stuff, big blade knives, and then maybe after a while they'll get a bit bored and they'll start to drift back in the opposite direction. The other end of the spectrum, where you're looking at little EDC type blades and stuff. So, but everyone's different. I'm kind of the same, and but this might sound a little bit strange, this analogy I'm going to make now, but this is my Land Rover, and I love this Land Rover very, very much, and it's very, very practical. Like some of my knives, they're very, very practical, and they're built like tanks, just like this Land Rover, and that's what attracts me to, to stuff that works. It's there are certain things that pop up in my head when I'm looking at buying knives or buying anything for that matter. It certainly popped up in my head when I got this Land Rover. The same thought processes. I still had that selection process when I was buying this thing, and that was ruggedness and durability, practicality. Throw anything in the back, go anywhere type of vehicle. And when I saw this, I had to buy it. Had to. It's just too special. Okay, yes, the color is very outlandish. It's bright yellow, but you have to see past that, and just look at the vehicle and what it can do, because it can do some things that other cars can't do, and that's what kind of drew me to it. This particular one is a ignore the collection of wine and spirits. This particular vehicle is completely custom, and everything on it is all aftermarket, including the engine, which is a V8, and the V8 sounds lovely. It's a real beast, and I love it very much, and I love to drive it out on the road and scare people with it. It's just so much fun. And then we come to this. Well, actually, before I move on, so we got like tank-like stuff, and then we got tank-like knives, right? Now this would fall into the same category. I mean, it's a hard use kind of blade, right? Even though it's a liner lock, you could argue that there are stronger locks out there, but when I picked this up, it feels like you could do a lot of heavy work with it, and I like that. And whenever I before I buy a knife, I always review it to death, see what other people feel about it, and then I'll make my decision whether to get it or not. And I'm glad I did, because when you pick this up, it feels like you can do a hell of a lot of work with it, and it's a workhorse type knife, and I love it for that. And it kind of reminds me of my little Landy, my little V8 Lander over there. It can do a lot of work, and that's the reason why I was attracted to this. And it's the same as, actually, let me open these up. It's the same as this, my 0200. Also, tank-like blade. Pretty much do anything, and you could throw this at a lot of things and it would just happily do it. I feel no question. And it just feels solid, just like my Land Rover, right? And that's what I was looking for. I wanted, like, when I picked these two blades, I wanted something that's gonna last and be durable, and it's gonna function, and the materials are good. We've got G10, and we've got G10 on one side and titanium on the other. Strong, hard-wearing materials. Yes, they're not the lightest knives in the world, but if I want something that's going to be a workhorse, I kind of expect a weighty a weighty knife, say a knife with a bit of heft to it. So weight isn't really much of a problem for me. If it's going to be a light use EDC blade that's going to be heavy, then I'm not really going to go for it. But yeah, but it'll have to be pretty special for me to want that. But but getting back into why I collect stuff and maybe why other people collect things as well. I know, well, good reasons. Obviously, the knives that I put here for you for your viewing pleasure. You'll notice that there are some sets here. So you got your Kershaws. I'm just turning these around actually. You got your Kershaws. This is the onion. The onion class that he puts out. Then you got the Spyderco Dodos. There really are 3 of these, but I still trying to get my hands on the blue one, which I believe was the first Dodo that came out. Then we come to the Fox Karambits. I have 2 of them, the aluminium version and G10 version. Then we have the 3 Lion Steels, and then we come to our customs, which are in a kind of whole other bracket really. These are kind of more like presents to myself. I just saw them, loved them, wanted them, had to have them, and they are now mine. But there's also an investment. What word can I use? There's an investment strategy when it comes to the customs. I'll get into that later. So yeah, as I was saying, so you got your tank knives, and then you've got these kinds of blades, right? Okay, I know I'm showing you a picture of a car. This is my 300ZX twin turbo, which is off the road at the moment, but I had a whole different other process for picking this vehicle. Obviously, this is not the most practical of cars. It's a 2-door, low ground clearance, built for, well, one thing, speed. And it's very quick, very rapid. It is also modified. And again, my other car that I love. Now this car can't do the same things that a Land Rover can. Take this off-road and you can say bye-bye 300. So, but looking at it, that's obvious, right? Now I have knives that kind of fall into this kind of category too. Oh, by the way, this car is also quite rare. This is a Japanese import, so it's not made in the UK. It was imported into the UK from Japan, which makes it, I think that's the Fairlady Z, which makes it kind of rarer than the normal kind of everyday 300s that you see on the road. You don't see so many now, but there are people who still have these and they love them. I still love mine. I'm gonna get mine back on the road. But anyway, so yeah, looking at the sporty kind of look good kind of knives, you kind of get into, well, that kind of brings in customs and this kind of part of my collection. So this is a kind of best of both worlds really. So you got the Lion Steel SR1 in orange and black. I'm trying to do it with my left hand, and it not only does it look cool, it is also very strong, very, very strong. The lockup is amazing on this thing, and the same goes for my 2 Damascus type blades. And these would be like the Ferraris and Lamborghinis of the knife world, really. I mean, yes, you can, you could say, well, what about the customs? Yeah, well, yeah, some customs are. You could describe them as the same. You know, the Koenigsegg's and the Pagani Zondas of the knife world, in which something like this would fall into that kind of category. But you're getting into handmade, custom type stuff where a lot more love goes into those kinds of blades. Although not every custom is amazing, and there are customs out there that you can look at the fit and finish and say to yourself, well, that could use a little bit more work, a little bit more love could have gone into making that particular knife. But then, again, people will go for certain knife makers. It's not every knife that a custom designer puts out that everyone will go for. No, there are certain types. I mean, this guy is the guy who made this is Brian Ty, and I personally love his work. I just love the designs that he puts out. I love them. This is a Philip Booth, and that flies out just as fast as my tilt does, and I just love the design of that. I love it. The Damascus is amazing. Let's get that there. And these not only look cool, but you could say that these are, I mean, like I said, these are gifts to myself, and it's just so nice to pick these up and hold and to fondle and open and close and then put them away again because you're afraid of scratching them. At least I am, anyway. I'm very kind of weird when it comes to my knife collection. So, moving away from them for a little bit. People will collect knives for because they'll collect these for investment purposes, but this really comes to love, really. I mean, you to fork out 500 odd pounds or £1,000 or £2,000 for a knife which will invariably be a custom knife. I can't see many people shelling out that kind of money for a production blade. It'll most likely be a custom. That's a lot of money for a knife, some people might say. But it all comes down to how badly you really want it, and how much you love it, and how much you need to have it in your collection. It kind of becomes a bit of a. It starts off as a passion. Well, it starts off as a love, then passion, and then an addiction, and then obsession. I think it kind of, if you're into knives, like I think it kind of develops like that. It's a bit like a drug. At least it is for me. So people will buy knives, of that high, price point, because they know that it's an investment and they'll probably get their money back in the later on down the line, and they don't feel that they're losing anything. And take Rick Hinderers. You can buy a Rick Hinderer. You can buy was it the XM18s or XM24? Buy one of his normal production knives, have it, use it, and then when if you decide to sell it, you could get most of your money back. And if it's a custom, it's even more valuable then. So people like his stuff, like other designers. I mean, you see, that's just one knife maker, So there's people buy knives for investment purposes as well, but people buy knives also for sets, sets of things. They love buying sets of knives, knives that of one model type, but they differ, maybe in blade steel, or they'll, the handle, the color of the handle, for example, like these, for example. These are my, as I said, these are my Dodos. S30V, but this one's in carbon fiber handle. This one is also S30V, but with orange G10. And difference in price is quite wide between these two. And then you got your, the lovely shiny rainbow Kershaws here, and I do love these. I do fly out some. I love the way these fly out. So that's my leek in rainbow. This is my scallion in rainbow, and a chive. And there's a guy on YouTube who has an entire set of paramilitary twos, and to see them all lined up like that, it just looks so cool, and I can completely understand why you'd want to have more of more variations of the same knife. It just looks so, I don't know what it is, it just looks so cool. It might sound strange to any people who don't collect stuff, but I completely understand what it means, so I know I've been kind of touching in different parts of different areas of why people collect and why I collect stuff, but yeah, just to summarize, overall there are certain factors when I collect stuff that will override things like looks and color, weight, stuff like that. There are certain other things that will override. One of those things is functionality. The other thing is ergonomics. You got to have a knife that's it's going to be comfortable to use. You don't want to use a knife that's going to have hot spots, and the more you use it, the more the more the pocket clip digs into your palm. You don't want that. You don't want to feel uncomfortable. Your hands are going to get fatigued quickly, and you're not going to want to use it anymore, and you're going to regret maybe buying it. Who knows? I don't know. Unless you're wearing gloves or something, I don't know. But perfect example of a knife with great ergonomics is one I mentioned earlier, the Paramilitary 2, which I acquired recently. And this knife is extremely comfortable. Extremely comfortable. And I like it because you can choke up on the blade, and jimping is just right. The handle design is just right. It just seems to work. They just got it all just right. Think of it. Okay, here's an analogy for you. Think of it like dipping your finger into a cake mix, right? Stay with me. We've all been in the kitchen where our mum's been making cake, or your dad's been making a cake, or whoever's been making a cake, and you're a little kid and you're watching it all happen, all the ingredients go in, and it all gets mixed together, and then it all smells so good, and you can't resist but sticking your finger in there, having a taste, right? Still talking about cakes. And I mean, most of us have been there, and it's kind of like when you can stick your finger in there, and you put your finger in your mouth, and you're licking off all the dough and all that, and it we all remember that taste. We've all kind of been there, done that. It's kind of like knife selection and knife. Once you have the knife, and what you think of it when you get it and use it and stuff. It's kind of like that, because after you've stuck your finger in the cake mix and tasted it for the first time, it might taste all nice and sweet in the beginning, but then after a while it could leave a nice bitter aftertaste in your mouth. And that's how some some things can work out when you make your purchases. You could buy something, and you're happily using it one day, and maybe after about a week, the thing falls apart. That's not good. You just parted with your hard-earned cash, and then your purchase just fails and you just folds up. It's not good. But other times you buy a knife and it's as sweet as a nut. It's lasted for ages, never let you down. That's when things are good. That's when that you're glad you put your finger into that cake mix and you took a taste and you go, yeah, I want more of that. But yeah, you could leave a bad taste in your mouth, or it could be the sweetest thing you've ever tasted. I was going to say the sweetest thing you ever put in your mouth. That sounds wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have used the old cake mix analogy. It sounds a bit weird, but I hope that you understand where I'm coming from. Yeah, and so the other thing. So there are certain things that override things like color and weight, and those functionality, ergonomics, materials is very important. Blade steel, handle material, durability or longevity, how long it's going to last in use, if you're going to use it hard and stuff. Those things are important. And then once those things are satisfied, then you can look at other things like color and weight and looks. I guess that comes down to color is part of looks and things like that. So yeah, not sure what else to say on the subject, but that's pretty much how what goes through my mind when I'm buying my blades and stuff. I am like a kid in a candy shop, to use that expression when I go looking for